Thank you for sticking around for the Q&A after the feature screening of The Letter. With us this afternoon, we have the co-directors, Christopher King and Maia Lekow, and the subject, Karisa Kamango. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
So I guess I always like to start my Q&As by asking background information on all of you, perhaps how you two met and decided to make this piece together. I'll let Maya and Chris start.
Okay, so Chris and I initially, we started this film 6 years ago, and initially it was about a female freedom fighter that we heard of, who'd fought against the British, and especially like the fact that she was a woman fighting in a very patriarchal system. This story really intrigued us, but as we were then looking for more information and stories about her, there wasn't much. So we then decided to venture off to the coast of Kenya, which is actually where my father's family's, my grandmother's from, on my father's side. And we started talking to a lot of elderly people in the area. And they were telling us that they were having these issues where there's a lot of killing of elderly people accused of witchcraft, but majority of the time it is about land inheritance and capitalism. And so we then started veering this story a little bit, because we came back to Nairobi, we had so many interviews with so many elders, and we're like, we can't not make a film about that. And can we maybe potentially try and fit both of those stories into the one film? But it was posing to be a bit difficult. So we then came back to Nairobi, and we were looking for a translator to help us with the Giriama. So in Kenya, it's Swahili, but then in this one particular area, that there's different tribal languages. And Karisa speaks Giriama. So we then were looking for a fluent Giriama speaker, and we were put in touch with Karisa. And when Karisa came over to our place and he's watching this footage of all these elderly people from his community also, he was really shocked, and he was like, this is crazy because it's happening to my grandma now. I just received a Facebook message from my cousins, and then that's how now the story began. So we spent a lot of time with Karisa and his nyanya, his grandma. We traveled back home, and because it's also such a taboo subject and people don't really speak of these things outside of the family, we had to really spend a lot of time with Karisa, also assuring him that we're not going to kind of take this story in vain, and we know of the sensitivities and how do we play that in this kind of very intimate family situation. So yeah.
I don't think so. I wasn't sure if you'd asked how we met, and I was going to maybe add like a little bit. We're a wife and husband, filmmaking team. We both kind of directed this. We both produced this. Maia's also a musician, so she recorded all the sound. She composed the soundtrack. I was on camera, and then we edited a lot. And this is our first time making a film, so we kind of figured it all out along the way.
Oh wow! So first, even including shorts, or?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing we've ever directed or produced. We've kind of produced and shot music videos together, video art, and I've been a freelance kind of cinematographer and editor on different features and stuff like that. But this was our first.
Yeah, but never like a story, beginning, middle, and end.
Wow. That's amazing. Very impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, and we met when Maia was in Australia. I'm Australian, and it was 2007 when she lured me back to East Africa. We set up a production company, and we've been here for like 15 years, just kind of making stuff.
Wow, amazing. So Karisa, were you like very excited from the get-go to like have this filmed? Or I know you were just saying it's a very like intimate family matter, but did you feel like this might help you win people to your side, or shed light on something that was going on that you felt like you had no control over? Or what was your initial reaction to the filming of this really big thing going on in your family?
At first, it was something that's happening around many families, the story that we were going to talk about. So I just it was something that was meant to happen, because at the first time I was doing the translations, so I was just translating and just coming to get the story, it was like, this thing is happening at home, so why don't we also go at home and also make a research about it? So when we came home, yeah, so we started like finding out what has been happening through Facebook. I started going through into details about the story of my family. So that's how it connected with the story that they were trying to focus on. Yeah, so at first it made me go back to my roots, to going back to my family, because I used to be staying in town, not going to my grandma's place most often. So it made me like go back every now and then. And also it opened up my family, because I didn't know that this was something that it usually influences other families. Yeah. So it was something that it opened me up also, and also it also brought a good relationship with my grandmother, because I became closer to her, and she telling me her story and such a thing like that.
Great. Okay. So when you went into the village, how was it getting everybody else, okay, on board with you filming? Because this is like, I mean, I don't know their level of like actual awareness of what was being kind of perpetrated, but I'm surprised that so many people were okay with you coming in and kind of filming this really horrific thing that was happening in their community.
Yeah, at first the family members they didn't understand what was happening, because they thought that I was just doing my art thing about culture, music around coast area. So when I came to the family, so I had to first explain to them, tell them that Maia and Chris have been friends with me for a long time. So they had to first accept them into our family first before just opening up. This is a day.
Oh, we lost him.
Well, hopefully for not too long.
Mombasa network.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
but
I'll
also,
just clarify for the.
Just to follow on from what Karisa is also saying, is that for us it was really important. Well, number one. Sorry, Kala, you
yeah.
You went out of network.
Oh, sorry. So it was they had to first get to know Maia and Chris first before they open up. Yeah, because it was not just an easy issue just coming and just giving out a story, because we had to go to my uncle's place to catch up with them, come back to grandma's place.
Oops.
We got lucky there. And I just want to clarify for the audience, if this is in the Q&A, that he is in the mountains, so it's going to be a little glitchy in and out. So just bear with us.
Karisa's calling from Mombasa, where you saw him leave from. The beginning of the film, which is kind of it's a big city at the coast, but yeah, network can still be a bit of an issue, especially during COVID times.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Sorry,
we can hear you, Karisa.
Yeah.
We lost.
Sorry for the. Yeah. So maybe that's all I can say for now. Yeah.
And just to add to that, Greta, like I think also for us, number one is that because also I'm also a child from the area, even though I really didn't have much to do with that area, I think also that allows you, when you're part of the family, you're like a child from that space. So I think that automatically also gave us more access. And at the same time also is that we really spent a lot of time without the camera, just getting to know Karisa's grandma, because of course, like you've got two outsiders who are coming into your space. We were living and staying there for, long periods of time in one go. And for us, it's just essentially just being in that space and making her comfortable with us. And just, having a mutual respect for one another and her then being able to share her story with us.
And then also when, I guess, like filming was one thing, because we just had a small SLR camera, Maia had like some lapel microphones. So it was kind of important to us as we started kind of forming our rough cut together. We would then like take some scenes back to Kaloleni, show them to grandma on the laptop. And actually those conversations became quite interesting. There were times where actually yeah, it became like as it became clear about the film and about this story kind of coming out, we had to kind of recollect and also start consulting like grandma's priest and a lot of the religious leaders, because there were some kind of anxieties about a film like this, a story that's so personal and not often spoken about publicly, for that to come out, especially in that area. There were worries about grandma's safety, and also grandma really kind of wanted to correct us. She kind of told us, no, you haven't covered how I'm a Christian, how I grew up. She wanted to tell us about her mother. She wanted to tell us about all these things. And that's actually when we recorded just the audio interview with her, kind of setting the record straight, kind of giving her voice back to a lot of the kind of allegations that were coming out against her. So it also kind of formed how the film came together. Showing her the footage, showing Karisa the footage. We went to the uncles, the aunties. We showed everyone the film and got their blessing before we finished it up and premiered.
Wow, I can't believe, I feel like some of the family members would be a little not happy with the depiction. I mean, it seems like it was very, it was reality, but I'm surprised that everyone was okay with it.
Yeah, I think people were okay with it. I think at the same time, just to quickly add, like it was tricky because essentially, like for us, like again, like it was important for us to be able to show both sides of the family as equally as we possibly could, not taking sides essentially. And I do feel that really comes across in the film. At the same time, of course, now that the uncle has watched or seen things on social media and things like that, he is slightly like, oh, you're actually putting me in not the best light.
Well,
so, but I suppose that's a challenge of also trying to make a documentary, and also just showing it as it was, as you say.
Yeah, I would say he put himself in a bad light. You didn't. So I was really curious. The film, I feel like gives you a really great depiction of the really negative fallout of the colonization of the area, kind of obviously there's a generational divide, but a big cultural divide there. How aware did everybody you filmed feel? Or is it like in your mind that like the older generation had this different way of doing things and this younger generation is now like much more this kind of Western, like capitalist, ideology? Or is it just kind of like, well, I want to make money and be comfortable and have more than my parents had? Or what's the like kind of day-to-day reality for people in that area, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think it was, it's been hard to tell because we've come in as outsiders with this kind of bird's view and all this historical knowledge and research that we did. I feel that like most people we spoke to, apart from the real like deep roots kind of cultural groups, otherwise most people didn't seem to have like much of an awareness of this being a kind of systemic and kind of historically phenomenon that like the awareness didn't seem to be there, especially within the Christian context. A lot of people just see this as, and like I heard it for the first time when we were filming, like this idea of spiritual warfare, that this doctrine that a lot of priests are teaching, that there's this spiritual realm where the Christians are fighting with the traditionalists and the Muslims, and there seemed to be such a kind of militarized version of religion that really seemed to kind of shut people off to a lot of the atrocities that were happening.
Can I add to that? Like I also think that so when the British and the missionaries came, anything that was traditional was considered devil worship, satanic. And so essentially that's where the problem began, because you had these churches, you had mosques who were trying to like bring people into their congregations. At the same time that all the people who believed in traditionalness then became diluted and devils. And then what then ended up happening all these years later, as you say, like now there's this issue because you have people who are wearing cultural, like traditional clothing, and they're just considered witches straight away. Number one. Number two, you also have the educational. So you have obviously a lot of people from the old days, they are extremely rich in wisdom of traditional, whatever it might be, medicine or religion or politics, music. But then you then also have this huge rift that's happening with people who are sending their kids to school, who now, which is this Western gaze, who now think that they know everything, and everything from the past is not valid. And so this is really causing this huge rift between the elderly generation, the older generation, and the younger people today. Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
oh, go ahead, Karisa. Go ahead.
yeah, so it's like maybe to add something to what Maya said, it's like there's a gap between there's a big separation between Christianity, religion, the Islamic religion, and also the traditionalists. So it's like when you're a traditionalist, it's like you don't worship any god. It's like you are that's how the religion has influenced the culture of this place. So many people are Islamic and Christians, and it's like the Christians, they think that if you're not a Christian, you're not worshiping the true God. So that's how it's been going on since back in the days. Yeah.
And Karisa, do you feel like this kind of required analysis, like self-analysis, that I feel like comes just from seeing yourself on film, seeing like, is that me? Is that really what I look like? Do you feel like that has had an impact on your family?
I didn't get your point well. Maybe you expound a bit.
Yes. So with your family seeing the film and kind of seeing themselves depicted, hearing their conversations back to them and, having the editing kind of tell a story, do you feel like it has affected how they behave? Or do you think they're kind of like, oh, that was great, someone filmed something, moving on with my life?
Honestly, some like what Maya was saying, like my uncle now has become like, he's like, oh man, I'm the person who was saying Nyanya is bad, and also like it's like he's feeling guilty inside, like he thinks that he wants to confess about it. So it's like he wants to come back to grandma and like, let's say sorry, something like that. But grandma left us. Yeah, so she's dead right now. So I think uncle is still he wants to say he's sorry, but he doesn't know how to express it. So it's like he wants to express it, but he doesn't know how he will approach till he gets to say it out. So some of the family members are like, we've been doing a good thing, but on his other side, they're like, what we did is, it's like we want to separate the family, something like that. So there's some differences that have come up recently, but we are still good because we are still talking, even if there's this rift, but inside we are still a family. Yeah.
Has it helped you build more of a relationship with your aunties as well? Have you been able to go back since the passing of your grandmother?
Yeah, I've been able to go back. First of all, I'm supposed to go back there next week. I'll be there. I'm going to visit auntie. Yeah, because my dad came from Nairobi, is at home also. So we are going to be together there all of like 2 days. I'll go and stay there and then come back to town. So it's like at first auntie couldn't accept her mom to be exposed in the cameras for her story to be shared out. But now I've seen her, she's like, even uncle from who used to work back in Dubai came back also. So he was like, yeah, you can use this thing to educate other people. Go if you can take it to school, the film. So it's okay. So they're proud of it. Yeah.
That's good to hear. I'm glad.
We were actually all just there also last week with Karisa and visiting the auntie and also just paying homage to Nyanya, the grandma. When we started kind of like figuring out like the first kind of stages of the impact campaign. And it was really powerful, because I mean, outside of the family, in Kenya, no one has seen it yet because we haven't premiered the film yet, and we'll do that later on in the year.
We hope to in June, but then the pandemic just kind of shut that down.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. But so we were kind of essentially just showing parts of the film to different focus groups, like women's groups, elderly groups, religious leaders, just to understand also from the people on the ground, like what they saw, what they thought when they were watching the film. And it was just amazing, as in people were crying like in the sessions after just seeing the film, just being like, oh my gosh, this has happened to my father, like, just last week. And it happened so many times that we are now trying to figure out the impact campaign going back in November, and just trying to figure out how is the best way that we can share this film to really be able to create as much kind of like, difficult conversations and figure out a way forward. So it's been pretty amazing.
Especially in the youth group, so many stories came out, and having Karisa like in the room talking about his experience, we hope that it would encourage other people to bring out like similar stories of their family members being accused, but we didn't realize it would bring out stories of people who'd actually been the ones who perpetrated some like either threats or violence. And just hearing them speak in that forum, you realize kind of how there's so much kind of guilt being carried. There's lots of confusion. These are like young people just kind of going with what either their relatives or friends or even what the media is saying. So yeah, it felt like we kind of need to regroup. I think we need to have counselors available at a lot of the screenings, and but just the fact that these stories were coming out felt like a really good sign.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I was going to ask about the distribution next, but that it's great to hear that you're doing a whole social impact campaign in the area. And will you be showing at many festivals in the North America?
We premiered at FI Dogs, and then we're just about to do New Orleans, of course, which is our favorite, as well as then Doc NYC, Santa Fe, Tallgrass,
Denver.
There's a couple.
That's awesome. Okay, great. So you're getting your reach out everywhere, all over the world.
Yeah, and it's amazing. At least we've like in March we were about to arrive at a festival in Prague, and then it was like the 15th, and then the festival got cancelled, and then we hurried back to Kenya before the borders closed, and for like a month or two we were worried that the film was dead in the water, because
after 6 years, you know that feeling where
like, it was the first film, 6 years. We're about to we premiered at IDFA in November, but this was going to be our second we lost Kaladze. Was going to be our second festival, and then they all started cancelling. But thankfully, you've all been able to go virtual, and it would of course be amazing to be in a cinema, seeing how the audience like sees the film. But the fact that the film can still reach people virtually, has really been amazing.
Yeah. I do hope you get picked up by I mean, I would prefer to see it in a theater as well, but at least a streamer, so that you can share this with more people. It'd be great to see it on Netflix, in my opinion, but I know filmmakers don't always want that necessarily.
Why not? Why not? If they want to call, pick up the phone.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Netflix, if you're watching. So hopefully we get him back before we wrap up here. But what are you guys working on next? Or just focusing on the? Oh, never mind. Okay.
So the kind of impact campaign has been really crazy, and also still applying to festivals, of course. But what we now have, which we've actually been filming for the last 2 years on and off, is a film that we're calling currently "How to Build a Library," and this is about two amazing, like incredibly courageous women who are transforming a dilapidated colonial library in downtown Nairobi, and just kind of going against the usual status quo of how we deal with things here, trying to navigate government, trying to raise funds to be able to re-Africanize and reimagine this building. So it's been super, super exciting. And the fact that the whole team pretty much are all women, and just like kick-ass women, excuse my language. So it's been a really amazing process, and we're really excited about this next film too.
It's also an interesting building in that it was kind of built in the 30s by actually an American settler.
Yeah.
But Kenyans weren't allowed into the library until independence, like in the 60s. So yeah, there was as the first kind of independent government inherited this kind of colonial institution, it was just full of like people stuff that they kind of, there was like a problematic relationship there. It was just really dismissed as someone else's history, and I don't know. It's and then it's just sat there for 50 years, just collecting dust. And
it's still been open though. It's like it's open this whole time.
It's been a functioning library, but it's been a kind of it's always been a problematic space because of its history. And now these two women are completely transforming it. And I guess in the same vein as the whole Statues Must Fall movement, what's interesting is how this kind of library institution it's also really, in its design, was there to celebrate a problematic and kind of racist view of history. And so the way that young Kenyans are now
questioning that,
that and taking ownership of the space and transforming it into something that's relevant to them, and putting books by African authors in there which don't exist.
All the books there were like by white male authors. Sorry.
So we need to switch that up.
Yeah, totally. No, it's been incredible to follow their journey. Just the ups and downs.
Wow, that's so exciting. Well, I can't wait for you to finish that one so we can watch that as well. I'm learning a lot about Kenya through the two of you.
You have to go Monday.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say on behalf of the film or yourselves?
No, I think we've
covered some good ground.
We've covered some good ground.
Yeah. No, I guess we're still super raw, having come from this trip at the coast, and balancing how it's seen here in Kenya and how it's seen in places like the US. So any comments or feedback we get on social media or anywhere around is like always really amazing for us to see how it's being. How it's connecting with people.
Yeah, and I'm just that's exactly it. It is really amazing to see how it's connecting with people worldwide. Not just here, and how also family is obviously a universal story. Having a grandma is also a universal story, and how I think the respect for elders is also it's dissolving. It may not be as drastic as what's happening here, but it is dissolving across the world. So I'm glad that we were able to capture this wonderful Nyanya before she passed, and we have captured her soul. And I think it's just for all of us just to also take time just to think about our parents or our grandparents moving forward.
Yeah, especially they're becoming more vulnerable than ever. I guess during the pandemic, and definitely as someone who has to live across the world with their family on the other side of the world, it's it definitely makes you stop and think about what's important and what it is we're all kind of building here, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, looks like we got Karisa.
We might have got Karisa back.
Oh, hi, Karisa. I don't know if his audio is working. Hello?
Can you hear us?
No.
Karisa.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh, we got you.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, good.
Getting back outside.
We were just wrapping up and just giving our last words to Greta.
Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the people watching?
Yeah, sorry guys, I've been off. So the big problem is brought about by these issues of witchcraft is that they just people land issues, people have poverty issues and lack of employment. That's why some of this go on hacking others. So it's a time now that the youth stand up and also need to hustle on their own, not just to wait for their parents to give them everything. So that's all I can say for now. Yeah. To work hard on our own, not only just want to be given just free things from our parents. Yeah. So it's high time. Yeah.
It's a good lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for being with us. Thank you for joining us. It's great to be able to speak with all three of you. And we're so happy to have been able to show this film at the festival. It was a real privilege. So, well, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your days. And thank you for joining the New Orleans Film Festival. We'll see you at the next screening.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Greta. That was awesome.
Oh, I'm glad. And if you need anything from us, if we can assist in any way, let us know. And we'll be sure to bring up the performance component with Clint, and then you guys can work something out that way.
Awesome.
No worries.
Thank you. By the way, okay. Karisa's teaching you a Swahili word to say thank you very much.
What is it? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Asante sama?
Asante sama, like thank you very much.
Well, asante sama to you.
Awesome.
Karibu.
Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hopefully our paths crossing again somewhere, somehow.
Yes, hopefully we can be in at least the same continent at some point. Be great.
Awesome.
All right, well, thank you all.
All the best. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.